The sidewalk was crowded the evening the kingfisher fell. People stopped, staring at the ground, then up, bewildered. It just dropped from the sky, a woman said. Above, Chittenden Bank rose shining 4 stories high. Windows are sky, dusky sky, the river meters away. Kingfisher. I know their chants by heart. I've watched hundreds dive, rise, fly off, but once I would hold a kingfisher in my hands. I would touch that blue power. It may be the only time I ever do. What I held was more precious than handfuls of money. If I could have thrown it to the wind, I would have. What to do with such wild pain was the question, and the answer, carry it across Elliott Street to the bushes by the church, to the flowers, and set it down. Slip it inside an envelope of green. Give it back. Give it back, all of it, and go home. I want to welcome you stream dabblers and river walkers, lovers of flowing water, guardians of sturgeon and cypress and yellow-crowned night herons, brook trout, and duck potato. I wish today I could read you a pretty piece about canoeing down my favorite river, but I cannot, because the tasks before us are getting more clear, and you are more clearly needed. I'm very grateful to be able to stand before you, because I'm tremendously worried about the world, and I think a great deal of the solution lies in us. I first want to press upon you what an honor it is for me to be able to speak to you, you who care so deeply about wildness, about nature, who live in service to it, who have devoted your lives to it, who carry its best interests with you in wake and in sleep. Thank you for devoting your lives to wildness, water, good water, for laboring daily on behalf of streams and rivers and to the land and communities they flow through. Once in a hospice class, I was assigned a death awareness exercise. On little squares of paper, we named 10 things we really love, and one by one, we threw them away. To have to give up flowers or books or my son, although I know I will say goodbye one day to everything precious, almost broke my heart. With climate disruption, of course, that's what we humans are doing. We're throwing away the things most beautiful and meaningful to us, things we've thought immutable, predictable seasons, weather we can trust, polar bears, coastlines, entire islands like Ile de Jean Charles, permafrost, glaciers. Imagine throwing away glaciers. Imagine throwing away your river. Increased flows are the exception rather than the rule. For every river whose flow increased in the past half century, 2.5 rivers were drying out. We can no longer assume that our rivers will flow forever. And now, a lot of things are crying out for help. Cries are coming from the refugees of Joplin, Missouri, and Alabama, from the heat-seared, drought-stricken Southeast, from the sodden fields of the Midwest, where snowfalls and rainfalls this year hit records, from the flooded Mississippi and Atchafalaya, from the Australian farmers with their failed grain fields, flooded last year, from the yet homeless of Pakistan's floods, from the Russians with their fresh memory of a record heat wave last summer that ruined their grain harvest. Do we have a bigger problem, as Bill McKibben recently asked, than $4 a gallon gasoline? In the face of such devastating news about the atmosphere, about the sea, about water, what do we say and do? In this short life, we have witnessed, all of us, the carnage of nature. In this regard, I think we suffer from post-traumatic stress and disorder, or more realistically, present traumatic stress disorder. First, the human psyche is a complex thing, nor are contradictions easy to recognize in ourselves. However, when words and actions are obviously incongruous, I start to feel crazy. And in the face of new and startling evidence of environmental catastrophe, the contradictions are too much to bear. Every day we should be weighing even the minutest decision and asking which action causes the least harm. Not long ago in a Q&A, someone asked me for the umpteenth time about hope. Am I hopeful? Where do I find enough hope to keep going? What gives me hope? And suddenly I realized my problem with hope. Who needs hope? I certainly don't need it to keep doing what I'm doing. Hope is not a prerequisite for the great work before us. What's required is love. Do you find out your newborn daughter has leukemia, so you stop feeding her? A radical example, to be sure. What about love? Why doesn't everybody ever talk about love as motivation? So the question, how do you stay hopeful, becomes as ludicrous as, how do you stay love-filled? How? I wake up every morning and look out my window at that fat old orange sun rising over the pasture. Mockingbird singing in the cedar. It's not hope or love that keeps me going. It's fight, which I'll define as life force. I may not have a lot of hope, but I have a lot of love and plenty of fight. Realizing, of course, that fight is love, which is hope. So, saying you're hopeless is a cop-out. Honestly, quitting because you're hopeless is a crime. It's early morning and I'm snorkeling in Florida's Crystal River. Although the water is 72, the November air is chilly, and to keep warm, I stay submerged. I'm wearing a mask floating at the edge of Three Sisters Spring. I'm here to see manatee, of which only 500 are left. In the light green water, I can't see more than 12 feet, so at first I'm frightened when two dim and monstrous shapes materialize. They are so big. They glide past, close enough I can reach out and touch one. The manatee turns, positioning itself alongside, rolls over, and presents its belly. Its hide is rough and thick, covered with barnacles. I examine its fins before it slowly paddles on. 3 others come, they go. 5 appear. Now below, I can make out manatees resting on the river bottom in deep silt, sometimes atop each other, a fat knot of sea cows. The scene is surreal, the suddenness of a shape so many times bigger than myself appearing out of the translucence. I start to become manatee. I wave my feet and glide, looking around at our water kingdom. What interests me this morning is this cathedral of spring, the sun in the sky. I roll, I quit using my hands, and when a manatee comes, I lay my goggled head against its side. A mother and calf dispatched from the group. The calf, curious, quits nursing when he sees me. He swims and tumbles, and he looks me in the eyes, and I roll with him, breathing hard. She puts her face, with its searching eyes next to mine, looking deep. Within all the unknown, there's this attempt to enter another plane, which is wordless, weightless, a beautiful lightness. Her eye is a wrinkled spiral, beseeching, and then I hear her speak to me. You must help us, she says. You must help us. Something rises in me that has been rising for a long time. I hear her distinctly. You must help us.